That's it. We're live. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to all our regular viewers and listeners, and of course to my favorite, Mr. Charlie from Best Agent. Have you heard of Charlie?
I haven't. Am I missing
You
out?
he does a series of informative um, interviews to camera, basically on his own, where he talks about the state of the market, and he has a very sort of glasses half empty view of it, and he provides sort of advice to wannabe buyers and sellers, and it's
Oh,
very interesting, and it's one of these. It's like a car crash. I have to look at it and I have to watch them. But a big welcome to my new co-host, Harry Trueman. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I have a tall order to live up to here that for the replacement of Whaley. I don't know if I can handle the pressure, to be honest.
I think you can do it. I think you can do it. If anyone can do it, you can. And just to sort of give everybody the background to how Harry came to be looking so on point at this time on a Sunday morning, is the Dyson Airwrap, by the way.
It is.
Um,
Yeah, we don't get any commission for mentioning it, but we may mention it several times during this
it
broadcast.
should become part of Property Mark standard issue kit, to be honest, because I think it's fabulous,
Yeah.
and I'm a bit jealous. But Whaley said he couldn't make it today, and I picked up your guide, which contains 80 fantastic women prepared to speak at a moment's notice on any subject, pretty much within our industry,
Yeah.
and I thought, why do I have to settle for any second best? I'm just going to go for the author of the guide herself. So, Harry, for those that don't know how this came about, this is like a long-standing gripe, isn't it, in terms of the way that even this week, in fact, and I'm not going to mention names, but even this week, somebody within the industry, quite a prominent figure, said that they couldn't find women who were happy to talk on certain subjects,
Mm.
and you seem to have found no problem finding quite a few.
Yeah, I think it is a long-standing frustration of mine and a lot of my female counterparts in the industry. It's something that we talk about quite a lot amongst us, that there's so many women out there who are happy to talk on these subjects, and we're just not being asked, which is infuriating. And Minty, you'll know that you'll see conference panels and podcast panels or whatever, and it's predominantly male. So what started happening is we've started challenging that. So we started saying, going to the organisers and saying, where are all the women? Like, what's wrong with this picture? And normally the answer is we can't find anyone, and we don't know who to ask, or who should we ask? So basically I created this guide of there's 80 women who are happy to speak. It's all categorized. There's bios, there's photos. I couldn't make it any easier for people to get in contact with these women.
And even after you've made it so easy, it
Yeah,
is. I don't want to say there's been a lackluster take up of it because it's too early to sort of call it. So your guide is out there. You provided it to all the major sort of bits of industry press. I myself sort of intervened with one of them just to ask them why they hadn't published it, because there was one particular publication that hadn't picked it up.
yeah,
And they sort of did that whole, oh, we can't find the email. Will you ask him to send it again?
yeah. They thought I was
Instantly
mad.
assuming that the guide had been written by a man, which was ironic in itself. But as Christian says, it is sad that this is needed, but it is still needed very much, because for the moment our industry is making progress, I think, but it's not able to just let it grow organically. It needs some sort of form of affirmative action. People need to know that it's not okay to just have panels. I mean, I've had some comments and stuff that I've put out on that whole kind of gender debate, if you like, and some of the comments are, well, shouldn't they just get on by their own merits? That hasn't worked so far, has it?
No, we need male allies in this. We need people to consciously try and make a difference, consciously try and look at the balance and try and make an effort to make sure it is more balanced between male and female. I think if we just sort of let it go along, then it's, you know, people are just going to invite the same old people, they're going to speak to the same old voices, it's going to appeal to the same people, and we're just never going to get any of that diversity that we need. So yeah, I think that we need to just be more conscious of it and keep challenging it. And when people say, oh, we didn't know how to ask, just point them in the direction of my list, because there's loads on there.
It is a fantastic list, and it's a who's who of everybody that you've heard of, and some names that you haven't heard of as well. So if you're looking for specialist subjects, for instance, like surveying and technical subjects, there's loads of people on there as well. And it is a fantastic list, and I intend to fully use and abuse it for as long as we possibly can, because we would love to, and I think we've always tried to even up the mix. And I think that, you know, when you call a gathering of industry professionals, invariably when you're looking at that kind of the leadership sort of what they call C-suite, it is very much dominated by men in suits, and so that long needed addressing. How long does it take you to put together? Because I actually asked you, didn't I, whether this was I asked you who are we crediting for this? Is this a women in estate agency initiative? Is this a women in residential property initiative? You said no, just little old me.
Yeah, just me. So basically, I put the LinkedIn post out of frustration, because we'd seen another conference where it had just been all male, and I didn't really expect to get much response. And there were 150 comments on this post, and people reaching out to me directly. And I thought, in the post, I'd promised that I would create it into a list if people would tag people they thought were great. So then I was like, oh God, now I've got to do it now. so it took me months, and I just did a little bit here and there every day, just adding a few more names. And yeah, the final result was finished just before Christmas. I then sent it to all the women who were named on there, and asked if they were happy to be on the list, happy with their bio. And it was released beginning of January. So yeah, it took me about 2 months, I'd say, to put it together. It was a labor of love at the end.
It's a superb piece of work, though. It looks great, and it's really sort of easy to use as well, which for us men is essential. So Christian has said, there's no lack of incredible, successful, inspirational and successful women in our industry. Media and events have a duty to educate themselves on who is doing what, where in our industry. Absolutely shameful. And Christian works with two of my favorite, at least two of my favorite industry women, Carla and Anne. They are both absolutely powerhouses. Megan, for a change, is disagreeing with me. I disagree. It is on their own merits, but people are blinded by toxic masculinity and scared to go in a different direction. They've all earned their places on merit, and it's overshadowed by their pipe work. What she means is, I think, well, I don't know. I would interpret that I think we still make a lot of decisions in this industry on who gets to do what, based on commercial, what they used to call commercial realities, i.e., you know, how valuable that is to certain companies, suppliers, agents, whatever it may be, awards, to get into the right places, say the right things and do the right things, and nobody really challenges it. There is still that, isn't there?
Yeah, I think, does she mean that, so some of the comments I get is that there aren't women sort of qualified to talk on this sort of national level about these things. And the problem is that if you always keep asking the same people, then the other people don't have the chance to demonstrate that they can give that knowledge, and that they can. And by being put forward to speak about these things, there's more chance of them being promoted. There's more chance of them reaching those C-suite levels. But if you're never going to ask them and put them in the limelight, then they're never going to get the chance to demonstrate that, I think. Maybe.
So you think that sort of exposure and prominence kind of translates through to, in the long run, it's great for everybody's careers, because it does get them to that level, that they're a face and a force to be reckoned with, because they're well known.
Yeah, definitely. If you think about if a senior position comes available, the people who are responsible for recruiting into that role will think about what people do we know in other places could fit this role, could has the skill set, has the prominence in the industry, and if that is always all men because no women are having the chance to be in the limelight, then it's always going to be men that are given the opportunity, isn't it?
Absolutely. So where you work both sort of as a vocation and also on a kind of voluntary level. So we've got Property Mark that I want to talk about, but also Andrews. Andrews has a very strong leadership team. You're obviously part of that, and there are some fantastic names in there. And in terms of encouraging women as well to be in those positions, their approach is, would you say it's unique or just really refreshing?
I think it's refreshing. I think at Andrews, people are promoted or put into positions based on merit. It's nothing to do with their gender. I think we are encouraged to have our own online personal identities. So, you've got a lot of corporates where people aren't actually even allowed to post, or they're not allowed to like a competitor's post or put their personality across, and that's not the case at Andrews. We're encouraged to do that. So you've got people like me there and Alex Tan. We both have these sort of big online sort of personas, and you don't really see that often in corporate agencies. We are a small corporate, so perhaps it's a little bit different for us, and we are charity owned. So again, we're totally different to every other agency out there. But yeah, I think Andrews has a refreshing approach to women in senior roles, and I just hope that continues and feeds through into other agencies.
And I always think that the best job that you can do is one where your kind of professional goals intersect with some of your kind of more personal or say social goals. Mm-hmm. So it feels good when you go to work and you do good things. At Andrews, if you guys are a charity and it's all about really the social good that you're doing, that must feel super good, or it must make at least the hard days really worthwhile.
Yeah, it really does. And it was really strange to me joining Andrews from being in a traditional agency. We don't make profit just to make profit. We make profit for a reason, to give back to our charity. So it was a real sort of change of thought for me to go, actually, we have a purpose here. Everything that we do leads up to making money to give back to charity, for the charity to put it to some good with young people, housing people. And it's been a total change for me, which I've really enjoyed. And it runs through everything we do. Every decision we make, we think about this charitable element. One of our taglines is, we believe in giving back. And yeah, I'm really enjoying that change of thought, not just making profit for profit's sake.
So from one charity to another, we had your colleagues Toby and Megan on last week. I think we're on a bit of a Property Mark run at the moment. See how long we can keep that going for. I don't know. I want Sophie Lang next. That's what I want.
Sophie, you're next.
I'm working up to Soph. So no, but we had them on last week, and they're obviously talking about what the charity's doing. What is interesting, actually, if we just unpick what we just said there, we've had all these Property Mark people on, but all the Property Mark people we've had are sort of a young cohort of really prominent, I'd say, sort of media-wise at least. As I know it's just our kind of pocket of the world, and we consider ourselves sort of famous, but in the wider world no one's heard of us. But for the property industry, and certainly for Property Mark, all the people that are really prominent and seem to be super talented at the moment are young people, like a very kind of vibrant and diverse mix of people. You jokingly refer to yourselves as the Spice Girls. I think even Toby's included in that, or Vota was at some point. I don't know. I think you have rotating cast members, but it is. I think that's remarkable, and it's a remarkable and refreshing change for Property Mark, which always used to be sort of a very stuffy, old-fashioned image. I think this is amazing, and other organisations would hack off their right arm to get engagement from such a young audience.
Yeah.
How have they done that?
I don't know how. I don't think they've consciously done it. I think that we've got a fantastic group of regional execs, and those regional execs inevitably, because of their involvement in property market, end up feeding into things like the panels, the ILA panel, the NEA panel, and then from there, it's where once you've got confidence within the organisation and you really understand what you want to achieve, there is where you start to think about going for presidential roles. So we've got Greg, we've got me, we've got Megan. So when I become president in June, I'll be the youngest ever president for only a year, because then when Megan becomes president, Megan will become the youngest ever president. So we're really starting to change perceptions of what it means to be an exec, or what it means to be on the presidential team. And I hope that then feeds through into the membership. So the membership will see myself and Megan in these prominent roles within the organization, and they'll start to see it as an organization that they can become members of as well, that it's not just the directors of the business they work for. They'll start to say, actually, the membership, they're talking to me as well, so membership could mean something for me, and I want to become a member. So I think it's fantastic. I don't know if it's a conscious decision by Property Mark, and especially the presidential roles we're voted into them by members, but I can definitely feel it turning in terms of the demographic that we are reaching as execs and presidential team members.
I know sometimes I get a bit of stick for seemingly not being hypercritical of Property Mark, but sometimes I will call it out if I think it needs to be. But I think this is amazing, because I genuinely, and this is not just in kind of property roles, but if you look at wider organizations, so we mentioned charities and the board of charities, the board of schools, and all different sort of places where prominent people used to sort of be those governors, executive trustees, whatever it may be. They all used to be of a certain kind and almost a certain age group. And I love the fact that Property Mark has this younger cohort that are really on their own merits are there, but they want to do it, because I think the message that really you guys are giving out to other young people these days, we consider ourselves so busy because we've got work, we've got home life as well, and we talk about that work-life balance that is so hard to get right, and then you want to pour on top of that voluntary positions as well. And a lot of people in the old days would have just gone, listen, that's not for you. When you retire, yeah, you can pick up a role like that, but that's not for you today. I'm presuming you don't see it. I mean, it is hard to juggle these things. We can talk about that.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's very hard to squeeze everything in, especially when you've got a very demanding full-time job. You've got home life to think about as well, and then you've got to shoehorn in the voluntary work as well. And I think sometimes my parents, especially, they are of the demographic of where they are retired now, and they're like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this extra work? This is free, and it's just giving yourself extra stress. But for me, I think it's about making a difference. It's about making a difference to Property Mark. It's about making a difference to our industry. It's about trying to change our industry from being one where when I first joined, I was almost ashamed to say to my friends that I was working as an estate agent or a letting agent, to actually something that I want people to aspire to be. I want people to aspire to be in our industry, because we do a fantastic job and we really care about our clients. And that's sort of what I'm on a mission to help change, really.
As the Viking himself says, historically people will build a career and later turn their attention to the wider industry. Now our industry is full of people on their own journey of success, but passionate about creating a better industry for all and willing to dedicate time and effort to both. Yeah, no, completely what you just said, but it was written by a man, so I had to read it out.
He's very important, Christian.
He's a very prominent figure on his own journey of success. No, it is superb, and I can actually sort of see a concerted effort. When you talk about journey of success, things don't happen by accident, and I don't think things happen unless you push yourself forward. So, I see people like you, like Megan, like Toby, like Alex Tan, you're doing stuff. So, Alex Tan doesn't need to have a coffee morning. I'm sure she's got other things to do, but that's a great way of sort of strengthening the industry around key topics and giving prominence to certain guest speakers and so on. But it also has the net result of upping your own profile along the way, and you're doing stuff, and you've all got plenty to do in your day-to-day jobs, but you're still pushing that, and you're getting places as a result of it. So I think if you somehow don't do that, you don't stay in the, as Toby's finding out at the moment, he's riding the crest of a wave in terms of fame. It's gone to his head. He can't go out in Bath without being mobbed by people. But it is superb how that happens. But you need to try, and that's one thing that I was saying. None of this stuff is accidental, especially when you look at the sort of posts that they're putting out. Somebody has to think about it, particularly with some of Toby's stuff. I get the impression that he sits there with a notepad at night going, right, and then I'm going to film it from that angle, and then we'll do. But it takes thought, it takes effort.
I think it's also consistency as well, and this is something that when I talk to my there's Whaley. When I talk to my managers and some of my team about creating a personal brand and about posting on social media, I explain to them that you're not going to get 100 likes, or you might do if it's just a one-off, but you need to, on your first post, that you need to think about what you want to say, develop that voice, and then you need to post consistently, and you will reach the same people and you'll build a following. And people like Toby and like Megan have been posting for years now about the same thing. And when they probably started, they probably didn't have that much interaction, but they've kept posting, they've been consistent, and that's how they've built this following that they now have. And that means that now, Toby knows who's liking and interacting with his posts, and he can give them more of what they like.
I'm going to throw a question in from Simon Whale. It's a big one. What one thing would you do? Angharad Trueman, Fala, President-elect Arla, Property Mart, to change, you've got a very long name, change the industry for the better. If you could pick one thing, and have you already picked it?
I am starting to develop it, what I think would really help, and that is giving more visibility to our clients about what we actually do. So the amount of landlords or vendors who say, what do I pay you for? What do you actually do?
Yeah.
And I wish they could see what we do. I wish they could understand how complicated it is sometimes to negotiate a deposit release or to get a sale over the line. I wish they could see that. So for me, if I could change one thing, it would be that everything we do would be totally transparent and visible to our clients. So they could see that we are worth the money they pay us.
So you touched on this earlier, didn't you? Because you were talking about how we are perceived also within the wider world. And so you're talking about proving value there to clients and showing the actual good that we do. And I think that's a Property Mart drum that's been beating quietly in the background for ages anyway, that, hopefully if we hold ourselves to a certain standard and we actually show ourselves to stand for certain things, then our clients will then understand that there's value in that. There's value in those qualifications. There's also value in the work that we do. But the wider question there is our reputation within the wider world. Now, you were sat in the audience, so you've heard my fantastic presentation on reputation. But that's been one of my bugbears for years, is that I consider the veracity index that they carry out about how the public trust estate agents to be extremely, I think it's a work of nonsense, to be honest. It's like if I showed you 10 photos of random people and said which one of them is most likely to steal your car, you're going to often choose out of some sort of prejudice or whatever it is that's in your head. And I think asking a question as to how likely do you trust somebody and then ordering it in a certain way, well, I think if you look at it, it's the surgeons and the nurses and all the people who are very clearly, our life is in their hands, at the top of that list of how much you trust them, because we have to, because otherwise we're admitting to ourselves that our lives are basically hanging in the balance. So,
but we have had mass murdering doctors and mass murdering nurses. Can you name a mass murdering estate agent?
Thank you very much. I can't. Can I? I can only name one estate agent, and for legal reasons, I can't actually name her. But I know of one estate agent that has murdered somebody, but it made the national press for about a week, and it was sort of a horrible, murky story, and then it disappeared. But you're right, we've heard of plenty of, you've got Harold Shipman, you got Lucy Letby, great examples of people in powerful sort of positions of trust, I think it is what it comes down to, who abused those positions of trust and did awful, unspeakable, terrible things. But I still think that I think it sort of relates to what you were saying before. If the public actually valued what we did a lot more, and if they felt that we were somehow able to save their lives as well, and I wouldn't go as far as saying an estate agent saves your life, but I think they can save your livelihood very often, in terms of, if you're entrusting your single biggest assets to them, and if they do a great job, they can affect the course of your life. I'd like to think that.
Letting agents can save tenants' lives. So you think if we don't renew a gas safety properly, if we don't make sure there's a carbon monoxide alarm in the property, if we don't make sure the EICR is done so the electrics are safe, letting agents can and do save lives. So yeah, more than estate agents, I'd say.
Lettings agents, the unsung heroes of our industry. So when you talk about when we talk about that veracity index and the fact that there is that lack of trust, and I don't think our industry press is at all helpful, and somehow I don't think our industry pundits are helpful, because some of us just use it as clickbait to sort of, talk to agents and say, everybody thinks you're shit, this is what you need to do in order to get yourselves on the right path. I honestly, and I know I surround myself with a lot of agents, but you are amongst the best people, both inside work and outside of work, the best human beings I've come across. I said this on stage at the Negs. I can't remember the last firm of accountants I saw sleeping out for homelessness. I can't remember the last firm of solicitors I saw down at the local food bank. And I'm sure there are some. But estate agents very prominently are very visible within their communities and seem to do a lot of community work, loads of charity work. And cynically, I'd say, well, they have to, because that's the penance we're paying for this horrible veracity index and that opinion. But genuinely, I think they love doing it. I think they seem to.
I think it's all about building that trust in your communities, and like what you said, we have to make up for our bad reputation of being an estate agent. We have to go further, don't we, than accountants or solicitors, to say, look, we are trusted, we're doing all this extra stuff, so please trust us. So I think, as estate agents, as letting agents, we have to do that to build that those community bonds that we so want, so that we get the referrals within those communities. So it's sort of it's necessary for agents, really. And if you're not doing that sort of thing, then I guess you're going to stand out.
Whaley is not intent to just skive off his own podcast. He wants to heckle us as well.
Yeah, Whaley was busy, but he can still comment.
He's busy. Do you know what he's doing today? He's going to watch the football. That's how busy he is. He's asked the question that I was going to ask later anyway, but we may as well get to it now. His kerfuffle big shtick at the moment is what are the best businesses having the right combination of people and partners? So which suppliers do you most respect in the industry today, tech or otherwise? And I suppose the question is, do you see them as partners or do you just see them as suppliers? Because there was a time when a rep walked into one of our offices and we just thought, oh, they're just here to rinse us again, without really truly caring about the business or things. But that's really changed as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, I definitely see them as partners. They're not suppliers. We're in this together. We're providing the best possible solution to our landlords and our tenants. So I'd say definitely partners. I mean, we at Andrews, we work with Good Lord, and they have some fantastic tech that really streamlines the process for tenants. It was built for tenants, by tenants. So Good Lord would be one of them. We've just launched at Andrews with Flatfare. I used to use Flatfare in my last place as well. And I was one of the sort of early adopters of Flatfare in my last role. So really pleased that we've been able to launch with them with Andrews, because they provide a fantastic solution for landlords and tenants to get tenants moved into properties faster without paying loads of money in deposits, but also for landlords giving them 10 weeks protection when normally they only have 5 under a traditional deposit. So I'd say those are my top 2, Flatfare and Good Lord. I'm really looking forward to working with Flatfare and getting this going with them, really.
And do you think something like Flatfare? I mean, I think Good Lords is amazing because it builds almost like a framework that takes you all the way through from pre-tenancy to almost post-tenancy, and those were the touch points that were always, I'd say, frustrating for both tenants and agents. So you get tenants wandering into an office, usually with like bits of paper sticking out of files, and can you photocopy this, and can you just do that, and did you need this? And they feel really apologetic for sort of taking up. They feel like they're bothering the agent, and the agent feels like they're being bothered. There's no two ways about it, because people are coming in the whole time and sort of interrupting that flow. And it seemed really disjointed. So that's one of those things that, I mean, honestly, if you want the sign of a really good prop tech product, try and sell it to me and watch me go, nah, there's no need for this. And they turn out to be the best products and the most but Good Lord, I think, revolutionized the life of the negotiators and the lettings managers in the business that I worked for at the time, because it took away that need for people to constantly sort of sit there waiting, and it was that inconvenience. I think, long run, it really proved itself over COVID, because that person-to-person contact wasn't as essential, and so you avoid that middle bit. But also it makes sure that everybody's documents are delivered on time and in full, and everybody gets what they want. So I love that. With Flatfare, it's doing something else, isn't it? Isn't it lowering that kind of barrier to entry to people who find it difficult? Let's face it, and it's something we don't talk about enough. The home moving process is expensive, whether you're selling or renting. There's so much to think about. And you don't need that outlay, do you?
If you need to get 5 weeks deposit to move into somewhere, but your 5 weeks deposit was already locked in, is still locked in the old place, that means you're having to find double the money until you can get that original 5 weeks back. So I think this speeds it up for tenants. They just have to get 1 week now, not 5. And it just makes it, like you say, it lowers that barrier to entry for tenants to get into housing.
And to get landlords buy into that, there's advantages to them too.
Yeah, so the landlords get, instead of 5 weeks traditional cover that you get with a deposit, they get 10 weeks worth of cover with Flatfare at the end.
So Whaley's asked you about the suppliers that you love. What about the people? So, I mean, we've mentioned some fantastic people so far, but is there anybody that you think kind of helped you or your career or your focus on key issues in the industry more than another?
In terms of suppliers,
please say David Mintz. Please say David.
Well, it's got to be David Mintz and Simon Well, of course.
Obviously.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't have to be a supplier. It could be absolutely anybody really, who you think to you is inspiration in terms of leading the way or encouraging you to do something that you might not have originally thought about doing or had the courage to do.
Well, I feel like our lovely Megan 18 is always looking at different suppliers and always seems to have the best tech solutions. So if I ever have a tech query, I tend to go to Megan, because she's either used it or has had demos with pretty much most of the tech in our industry. So I'd say Megan. In terms of like a inspirational people I just have in my career, or who I see daily and they make me want to try and be better, I'd say there's 2 people. So there's Alex Tan. I think that she has done amazing with her social media, and she just keeps making it better. So I think she's really inspirational, and I'm really lucky that I also get to work with her at Andrews as well. And then another woman that's really, really inspirational for me in our industry is Verona Frankish from Yopa. I think she's a force to be reckoned with. But she also, she runs a national estate agency brand, but she also finds time to build women up, which is the whole point of my list, is building women up, is putting them forward where they need to be. And Verona does that so successfully with Women in Estate Agency. So yeah, those are my two that I'd say are really inspirational for me, outside of the Spice Gang, because obviously all of the Spice Girls to me are
the big support network there. It's a family. I get that. But that's perfect. I think both of those two women there are in their own right doing amazing things, and again seem to sort of have the selfless quality of wanting to raise everybody up around them, so that we all sit on an even level. And in terms of sort of that progress that you mentioned Women in the Estate Agency there, and obviously their conference is coming up again, and I see that not to leave them out, but Women in Residential Property are doing fantastic things, slightly different flavor. Both of those groups, the rest of us don't know what goes on inside those groups behind closed doors, but we would hope it's a lot of high-fiving and a lot of helping and a lot of raising each other up. But sometimes we can get in each other's way, and sometimes not everybody has the same, I want to say agenda, it's probably too strong a word, but view of how we should achieve these changes that we're looking to achieve. And some people are way too polite about them, and I don't think enough change happens when you're so polite that it doesn't force anybody to do anything. Where do you see yourself in the balance of those things?
So I think that there's definitely a balance to be struck between always being the one sort of shouting about it, and like you're saying, also being too polite. So I think that you can ask questions about these things whilst also maintaining a balanced view and a politeness, I guess. So just this week, I noticed that somebody was advertising that they had a load of panel speakers, and there was one woman in this entire list of panel speakers. So I literally just contacted that person and I said, "What's wrong with this photo?" And then they gave me a response, and I said, "Have you checked my list?" And I'm still asking. I'm still making sure that I'm vocalizing my frustrations with this, but I'm just doing it in a certain way that I can't then be accused of, being bolshy and being argumentative. I'm literally just asking a question. So yeah, I sort of sit in the middle. We definitely need to keep pushing it. We need to keep asking those questions, but we need to be considerate about the way we do that, I'd say.
Do you think that we, and when I say we, I'm talking now as a man, do you think we are guilty of making you feel that if you do ask a question, you're being bolshy, or that there's a danger of you being seen as being overly aggressive?
There always is for women, I think. Kids in school, if you've got a girl who's overly assertive and a boy who's overly assertive, the girl is always called bossy. I was always called bossy when I was a kid. And
the boy is called a true leader.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we still have that. We still, we grow up with that, and we get used to that. We get used to thinking, well, if I get too mouthy, I'm going to get shot down. So I think, I just think we have been accused of that by men in the past. And I think if you want people to listen to you and not just put this barrier up straight away that you're too bolshy, too assertive, you've got to be conscious of the way you do it.
So Megan, who I think we can all agree on one thing is sickeningly nice and lovely, has shown you the love back again. So let's appreciate inspirational women here. Harry literally paved the way for this younger generation. I would never have pushed myself as a parent without looking at her and her making it look so easy. It's not easy, but Harry shows everyone what can be done. Harry, does that make you tear up a bit? That's lovely.
Yeah, she is the nicest person in property, I'd say, as well. But thank you, Megan. A lovely thing to say. and Megan and Sophie, who also just popped up, are also great inspirations for me for being senior women, working parents like I am. We all juggle this fantastic thing of motherhood and work together. So yeah, thanks.
So when you sort of juggling parenthood and working together, it takes understanding from the businesses sometimes in order to support us to do that. Mm-hmm. Do you think, I certainly feel this now, the standards of where we hold ourselves to in terms of being good parents and also being great employees, all that toxic positivity that we see, particularly at the start of the year, go smash it and get your 2024 goals together. And then there's me like trying to just scream at 3 kids to get into the car, and there's everybody got their shoes on and those shoes don't match, and let's go back to the house and pick up your bag and all that sort of stuff. When life is just going out of control, it doesn't feel very kind of like go smash it 2024. There's a lot of that out there. I think there's a lot of pressure on us to be amazing at all things. Can we admit, just privately between us and all the people watching, that it isn't easy to do at all in terms of getting that balance right?
I think that it's really hard, and I think that you inevitably will end up spending a lot of time on one thing and something else will slip. So I don't think you can ever fully give 100% to being an amazing employee and also an amazing parent. I think that we're just always just juggling, just trying our hardest. I don't know how about getting 100%. I'm trying to just get 80 on both, to be honest. I think if I can get that, or 75, I'd take.
If I can, I'm not as ambitious as you, so if I could do 50-50, I'd be quite happy with all of that. But as my next podcast guest says, Sophie Lang, smashing life isn't just getting that promotion, but a lot of the time it's surviving day to day and doing your best. That's all the stuff that people don't see, is all the sort of snot and tears moments that we all have.
And parenthood is basically surviving, isn't it? It is basically just winging it every day.
It is, and it gets more. And I don't think that ever stops. You know, as the kids get older, you just almost like the level of advice that you're having to give, you feel less and less qualified to give it, because you're getting to kind of like, you're building human beings, and hopefully the next generation of people that do all the things that maybe the mistakes that you made. I'm not saying that I use my kids to sort of right all the wrongs in the world, but it is that kind of Back to the Future moment where you can actually make a difference by, you know, raising your kids to not be total pricks. Sometimes that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you manage to do that, you know, just don't raise your kid to be a total prick, and I think you've won the parenting game. That's it, really.
That's I think that's the number one rule. Don't be a dick, and it's all going to be okay. It's going to be fun. It's so in terms of changing that narrative, then going back to your one thing that you wanted to do, which is sort of prove value to customers. Property Market obviously been really behind Roper and getting regulated, and they see that as an intrinsic part of actually getting across, protecting members of the public, but also getting across to them the fact that the tremendous value that agents do add. You've also touched on it. You said that lettings agents can save lives because legislation, let's face it, isn't there just to satisfy the politicians. Mm-hmm. It is there as well to sort of keep people in warm, safe homes. I'm presuming you're going to nod a lot to this, but you see Property Mark as being one of the key cornerstones to getting that message across.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think Property Mark are really pushing for Roper, as they should, and that we need qualification in order to demonstrate to our clients that we're qualified to do what we need to do. As I said, we keep tenants safe. We do save lives. And I think, Property Mark is a huge cornerstone in pushing that message and demonstrating. You know, at the moment, Property Mark members, we self-regulate. We don't need to, but in order to be a member, you've got to hit a certain level of qualification and standards within your business. And I think the more we can get of that, then that will go towards making us trusted by our clients and making us a desirable industry to be in.
And in terms of your presidency, and it's always confused me. I interviewed you, it must be sort of 2 or 3 years ago now, when you were in the running for being elected and so on. But the cycle of actually getting you guys into the presidential seat seems to be a really long one, because you go through that whole vice president-elect, and there seems to be lots of kind of gaps in between before they actually let you get to where you need to be. Is it frustrating, and can you plan to sort of deliver certain things? Do you plan to deliver certain changes as a president, or is it more of a, and I don't mean there's any sort of patronizing way, because it can be, and that's great for morale, but is it more of just a sort of an honorary role, if you like, where they wheel you out for various regional bits where you smile and have your photo taken and get back on a plane?
I think in answer to your first question, it's not frustrating, because I think the leader really helps you get used to the role, and also the level of work you're going to have to do, because as you move through vice president, president-elect to president, the amount of stuff you need to do sort of increases at each stage. So I think it would be too much to go from nothing to chuck you straight in as president. That would just blow your mind. So it definitely helps, I think, that lead up. In terms of what we can do in our role, you're right, we're an ambassadorial role, so we don't actually have any power to change anything in Property Mart. We're not employees. It's, for me, I see the role as going out there, talking to members, and talking to current members and listening to them and listening to what they want from their membership and making sure they're using their membership effectively. But I also see it as inspiring other members to join. And going back to what we talked about before with me and Megan and younger people coming into these roles, I'm really hoping that we will inspire more and more younger members to see membership as essential to their career, so that we start to see the split of age of members, of younger members growing. So that's what I feel.
Did I hear right that there's a boat involved this year?
There is, yes. There is the boat.
Because Property Mark and Partying Hard are not two things that necessarily I put together. But at the Property Mark 1 conference, I got to see what it looks like when you lot let your hair down. And it was interesting. I
feel like you let your hair down too, David. I'm sure I saw a photo of you on a bench with a McDonald's.
That is me letting my hair down, to be honest. That's my perfect night out. It's also my perfect night in. It's versatile. What can I say? I've got a repertoire. But what's going to happen on the boat this year?
So there is an after party on the boat after Property Mart 1. We don't really know the details of it yet, but we just know that we're going to try and get as many people as possible after Property Mart 1 onto the boat, and then who knows what's going to happen. But we have scoped out the nearest McDonald's for you, David. So if you are going to be there, we will work out the exact number of steps to get there.
I think Sophie Lang was there seeing me at one of my lowest and highest moments all at the same time. So do we need to bring our own towels? Is this a swimsuit sort of event?
I think definitely bring some towels. You might want to get one of those like mesh dresses that you see at like Ibiza,
I've always wanted to see if I can carry off a sarong. Maybe now's the time.
Yeah, don't forget your sun cream, and it's going to get loose.
Yeah, well, you heard it here first. So Harry, I'm going to have to say thank you very much for filling in for Whaley this week, but thank you very much as well for talking to us about your list. I still think it's incredible, and it's one of those things that when you see it, it's like, duh, that's exactly what we needed, and that's really, it kind of makes a lot of sense, and it's really, it's super helpful. In terms of what you've got on this week, what do you intend to go smash and conquer? What's going on this week? Give us some inspiration.
What's going on this week? Well, actually, I don't know about smashing or conquering anything, but we do have Alex Tan's cocktail mixing event for Women Estate Agency on Thursday night. So I'm looking forward to that. That's in Bristol. So if any women are in the Bristol area and looking to do some networking and meeting other women in property, then get in touch and I can point you in the right direction.
Big shout out to Alex Tan. Massive thank you to Harry Trueman once again. And thank you to all our guests, including my next guest, Sophie Lang. Thank you for volunteering, Sophie, sort of. And we'll see you all next week. Have a wonderful week.
Thanks, David.